and welcome to this, I think, very important bill signing of a package of gun safety legislation that I think is unprecedented in our state. And I'm proud to be the governor, to be able to sign it and really finish the great work of legislative leaders and legislators behind me, advocates, other elected officials, and the public. I think the t-shirts that say it the most for me is Moms Demand Action. Yay. And I say that I don't know who came up with your slogan, but when moms demand action in my world, they get action. And I know all the other groups, and there are plenty of other advocacy groups that unfortunately have started kind of with each mass shooting that we see across the country. Going back, I asked my staff to give me a list that I might mention here. The list is too long to mention, and I'd rather think about and talk about the future than the past, because this legislation is really about that. It's about providing sensible gun safety legislation within the context of the Second Amendment rights and with the limitations imposed by our legislators and by this action. And the credit really does go to the advocates and these legislators who took the ball and ran with it for all of you. One of the great things when I was in Congresswoman Blunt Rochester's job, I learned in a really intense and intimate way how different and unique serving as an elected official in Delaware is. And the reason is because of access the public has to their elected officials. It happens on a daily basis that a piece of legislation comes on the floor that was initiated by an individual citizen, and I know these bills reflect those individual outreach to members of the General Assembly before me. And that's the way it's supposed to work in a democracy. And so today we follow through on the action that has been demanded by the people that we work for and the people that we represent. And I can't say enough about these legislators. There were details to work out for sure, to come up with a package that was meaningful and that could address all of the issues that were brought to the caucuses, if you will. And I want to thank them for their great work. And with that, turn it over to Senator Sokola and Senator Townsend to talk about the Senate side of things, and then Representative Longhurst.
Thank you, Governor. I also want to thank my colleagues on both sides of the building, as well as the advocates, the governor, the kids. That's why the moms demand action. And I can tell you,
the kids are heard from. We just got a wave right there.
This is a very important package of legislation. It's a package that will make Delaware safer. I've met people like Ian and Nicole Hockley. I've met Gabby Giffords. And I don't want to meet people who've gone through that kind of stuff. This is a step. It won't stop everything, but it will stop quite a bit. And I'm very honored to be here standing with this entire group in order to get these things signed and make Delaware safer. Senator Townsend.
Thank you, Senator Sokola, Governor Carney, everyone who's here. I'm going to actually go off script. I'm going to be very, very brief and turn to someone who I think should have a quick chance to say something, who's been a true leader on gun safety issues for over the years and who's leaving the legislature this year. And that's the epitome of he might be succeeded, but he can't be replaced. And that's Representative David Benz. So. Yeah. Thank you to the governor for your key
We had an
leadership.
appropriate farewell for Representative Benz just the other day for his leadership on our operating budget. We're all going to miss it.
There's a lot of holes that are going to be there, and gun safety is a key one of them. So no doubt that you played an indispensable role the past few weeks in trying to make sure people focus on what we can achieve and what's important. And I think Dave Benz has embodied that for 7 or 8 years, or however long we've been blessed, and it's too short a time, frankly, But I wish the best for you and your family as you move on. But this is an issue you have led on in the absolute best way possible, and I would just love it if you have a quick chance to say something.
Absolutely.
All right. I really love this part of the job. It's my favorite part. I want to.
Just come up to the microphone.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
That's very famous.
So I just want to thank everybody for their advocacy on all these issues. A lot of times after one of these terrific events occurs, we say this time is going to be different. And in the time I've been here, this isn't the first or second or sometimes even the third time some of these bills have been tried. This time really was different. It really was. We didn't get fatigued. We didn't get drained. We didn't say, okay, one or two things is enough and we'll hold these other. We went for the whole thing. And we got all these bills across the finish line, and we're about to see them be signed into law. And that doesn't happen if we're not, as a legislator, if we're not constantly being pushed and held accountable by advocates like you see up here with us. That's the difference. And as we continue to look at new ways to continue to make our community safer from gun violence, got to keep that energy up, and that's going to be what continues to make the difference. So I thank everybody for, like I said, continuing to push us and hold us accountable and say we're not going to back off and say, one or two of these is enough. We want the whole thing. So thanks, everybody.
Representative Bentz is exactly right with respect to both sides of the building coming together with the various ideas and saying we're going to do this and we're going to do it together. And again, my hats go off to the leadership. The advocates have had other successes in years past. One of the most successful is the red flag legislation that we hear so much coming out of the White House and Washington, D.C. and the Congress. And we've had it operating here. The Secretary of Public Safety, Homeland Security and Public Safety is here, as long as our Superintendent of State Police. Already, almost 70 people have had their firearms taken away because of the red flag legislation. Really important for suicide and other issues, and really working here in the first state. Other states have not taken that step. And then also the legislation that helped us do a better job with straw purchases as well, working here in Delaware. Madam Leader Longhurst, thank you for the courage of sponsorship of your legislation.
So thank you, Governor. It's an important day in Delaware. Every time we have a mass shooting, especially in our schools, it goes viral across the whole United States of America. And every year, Delaware comes through. And you're always asking, what more can we do? What more can we do? Well, Delaware always does more. And today, we've actually shown that we're doing even more. And we have to do more because we have our advocates that are telling us what to do. These bills have been around. Some of them have been around for a while. Some of them haven't. But the advocacy that we have with the Moms Demand Action, the Delaware Coalition Against Gun Violence, DSEA, Gabby Gifford's group, they've always been there at the table pushing us and making us think, what do we need to do next? We can't solve everything, but these bills are going to make a difference in the state of Delaware and hopefully for other states that will follow, to say that these are pieces of legislation that will make a difference in Delaware. We do not want the next mass shooting in Delaware. We do not want to see it in our schools. We do not want to see it on the streets. We don't want to see it in the malls. So with these pieces of legislation, as we all come together, my colleagues, I am so proud of them that stood up and put their names on these bills. I want to recognize Senator Nicole Poore. When I called her about the assault rifle, she was like, count me in. Didn't even question it. When Governor sat down with us and said, what bills can we do? Representative Schwarzkopf says, I'm in. Representative Mitchell says, I'm in. Representative Osinski says, I'm in. Representative, who else is on the Representative Sokola, Representative Bentz. When we reached out to everybody, they were like, I'm in. There was no question that we were going to get it done today. And we are going to get it done. Representative Bolden, too. I can't thank everybody, but you're all wonderful. And if it weren't for everybody in this room, we would not be standing here. But Delaware's doing it right. We are the first state, and we're the first state who's going to continue making Delaware the first state to making safety in our state. So thank you, Governor, for bringing this and making this happen.
You're up, Tracy.
All right.
Representing all the
Thank you.
advocates.
I am representing all the advocates. And it is my honor to represent the people in this room, the women in this room, the men in this room who have gathered, the parents, students, teachers, administrators, law enforcement professionals. I'm honored to represent our partner organizations today. Together we are a statewide coalition, and we have worked tirelessly, truly tirelessly, to build a safer Delaware. We are so proud to have organized, along with our elected officials who often are not recognized as the advocates they truly are. We have advocates who work in this building on this issue, and they stand with us every day. We are so lucky. There are people here watching this from outside of Delaware that have no idea how lucky we are. I'm going to regroup here. We've organized into one voice, insisting on policy that prevents gun violence. We will never know the true impact of our prevention efforts. We will never see the true impact of our work. But we are working to prevent gun violence, afford justice to families who are here today, and protect our schools, our neighborhoods, our communities from violence and the ensuing trauma that plagues the communities that are impacted so much by gun violence. For the past decade, we have worked to educate Delawareans about the critical need for common sense laws that work in conjunction with the important community intervention programs that we invest in and the prevention education programs we work so hard on. For the past decade, we have worked to elect legislators who accurately represent the views of a strong majority of Delawareans and not the vocal minority we hear outside. Right. Elections matter, and we stand today to thank the governor and the General Assembly for this historic commitment to secure safer communities up and down our state. We see you. We thank you. We recognize you for your courage and your swift action. We thank you for your willingness to stand with the majority of us and stand up to an industry that profits from the unfettered access to deadly weapons. You have prioritized the lives of our children, including this guy, the safety of our families, and the health of our communities. Organizing, educating, voting, and leading are at the core of advocacy, and today is proof that we are most effective when we speak with one voice that simply says enough. Enough. The result of our advocacy is not the signing of these bills today. The result of our advocacy is a safer Delaware for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you again to you and all the advocates for your tremendous work, for continuing to push and pull and cajole and...
We'll never say sorry for doing this.
No, you don't have to. Senator Sokola also reminded me, for those who spoke insistently about providing additional resources to schools to implement their school safety programs, which they were required to do several years ago, and I know Secretary McQueen is working with folks on that question. We do have, thanks to the bond bill, chairs, both chairs are here, $10 million more in the bond bill this year for those measures. I can tell you, whenever I show up at a school across our state, and I go to a lot of them, I've got to knock on the door because the outside door is locked. I've got to go through the office appropriately so that our teachers and our children are safe there. So you've probably noticed that I keep staring at this stack of bills here. This is a little bit unusual. I got all these pens, and that's because we have 6 bills that I want to make sure that we do in order with pens for each of those. So the first bill up, maybe one of the most significant in my view, which is House Bill number 450, as amended by House Amendment number 1, which is the assault weapons ban here in the state of Delaware. those two get together, you can get a lot of things going on.
Governor, if I can just say
You
really
may.
quickly, so this has been a compliment over the years of what we have done, but we also need to recognize all of the mental health professionals who are stepping into our schools to mitigate any type of risks that may be presented because of gun violence. But I also want to make sure that we recognize all the victims in the room. To every day that you get up and you live for the person that you've lost. We hear you, and while we can't stop all of it, we will put barriers in place so that way no one else is affected. Thank you.
Next up is House Bill number 451, which is sponsored by Representative Schwarzkopf, which raises the age to purchase certain firearms from 18 to 21.
Yes, she does.
See how quickly he moved up?
Well, yeah, I'm attached to it. It's around my neck.
Next one is a bit esoteric, but it will strengthen our background checks, going back to the state background check process that we feel can give us more information on a more timely basis. It made sense when that change was made. I remember it generally, but this will help strengthen that and give the Attorney General some other tools to work with. It's House Bill number 423, is amended by House Amendment number 1, sponsored by Representative Mitchell.
Thank you.
So moving over to the Senate, again, as I mentioned earlier, we sat down, leadership in both chambers, and identified priorities and opportunities as well. Where were the votes in each house? So this is Senate substitute number 1 for Senate Bill number 6, which is represented or is sponsored by Senator Sokola and Senator Sturgeon. And again, this goes to a really important one in limiting magazines for guns, and we know that these have been problematic in some of the mass shootings that we've had across the country. So the next one is Senate Bill 302, which holds manufacturers and dealers liable for reckless and negligent actions, sponsored by Senator Townsend and Representative Benz. I'm sorry.
He's gonna need to have that.
One of my administration's biggest priorities is to do something about the gun violence in the city of Wilmington and small towns across our state. We have a program that we've been working on now for a couple of years, which goes out and attempts to intercede among mostly young adults who are engaged in group and gang activity. It's an evidence-based program that comes out of New York City, and we've been making progress with it kind of on and off. With the pandemic, it involves intensive case management and intervention, violence preventers out on the street. I talk regularly to the mayor and to the police chief, and the mayor told me of an incident recently. He saw a tape of a gunplay out on Northeast Boulevard where one of the individuals involved had put some device in a 9mm handgun, which converted it from a semi-automatic weapon to an automatic weapon. Automatic weapons have been illegal in the United States of America for over 50 years. And so this bill would specifically prohibit those alterations of semi-automatic weapons. And it's something real in our own city of Wilmington. I think it's appropriate to conclude, I think, where we started and a message that was part of what was said by all the legislators behind me. And that is that Delaware's different. We're different in our political culture. We're different in the access that the public has to elected officials. We're different, I believe, in the way elected officials respond to the demands, often demands, to the requests of the people that we work for. This package represents that. And this package also represents, I think, another part of our political culture, which is people from both sides of this building coming together to get meaningful things done. And I, again, want to thank the leaders behind me for doing just that on this package of legislation. Thank you all for coming.